Alright, I guess this works. Might as well give it a try. Check. Cool. I hope this works. Hope I'm not posting random. I hope this works. Oh, it does. Nice. Let's see if this works. Hell yes, it does. Oh, that's awesome. Well, how fun. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Seems to be working all right. Sweet. Working fine. Working fine. Well, we'll do with it what we can. It's just going to be a bunch of times me picking my mustache. Well, cheers to... Oh, other side. Cheers to anyone watching. It's actually coming bad. Or not. It's not coming through that bad. Which is nice. Yeah. I wonder if I could do a screen grab. Let's give it a go. Is it that one? Oh no. It is super zoomed in. I wonder if I zoom this. Let's see what that looks like. Still not bad. Oh. Now it's me looking at me infinitely. No, not that. Well, shoot dang. It only costs us 200%. I guess that'll work. Hopefully it does. Oh, it's me looking at me infinitely again. Let's see. Yeah, that seems to work. Well, if anybody's here, I think I got it figured out. At least I know it works. It's always fun. Oh shoot, I should warn the children. Pause. Pause. Hey hon, I figured it out. I got it to work on my phone. Or on my phone. On the computer. So I'm just gonna do a test. Hearing downstairs. Leave it now. Cool. Love you. How's your book? Better or worse? It's the same? Oh, good. Yeah. Well. Alright. Family's good. Everybody's good. Now it's time to get cracking. So, honestly, I kind of wanted to open this just by going through deep conversation. I don't know. There we go. I hope that doesn't disrupt you guys. I like to hear myself. I don't. But we'll get past it. Something I found interesting. I bet I could find it over here. Let's see. There was a video that got me thinking. And oh shoot, wrong one. Whoops. And it just got me pondering a lot. And one of those was, well, one, the idea of the afterlife. And then, I don't know. I've had a lot of loss, I guess, recently. So, I decided maybe I'd just free flow. I would rant. I'd kind of test this stream thing and see what we can come up with. And I'm glad it works out. It was also not easy to set up. But the thing on my mind, I guess, is, you know what? I'll look this up. And we'll go through it. Because I think there's a lot of ancient traditions that have different ideas of what happens. And, you know, I think some of them are pretty bland. Some of them are pretty fun. And then some of them are like, I don't know. So, let's see. I hope that looks good. I cannot tell on my tiny, teeny little screen. If anybody's in here and you can see
maybe give me a little buffer. I might be able to zoom in actually. But I figured maybe talking through it would help a little bit of, I don't know, maybe kind of what I'm going through, or, I lost great grandparent, and then tomorrow I have a funeral for my actual grandma. And it's one of those things where I've been studying a lot. I've been diving into maybe some ancient mysteries or two. And I figured maybe I'd have some comfort. And I do, right? All of them are great. But there are certain ones where I'm like, I just don't want, I don't want grandma to get recycled back into something that I'm like, I don't know. And so I thought we'd go through some fun ones. Just have an open discussion about maybe the afterlife. And we go through these a lot, actually. So we did a fun one for me, actually, was doing this field of reeds and then comparing it to the Exodus. That was actually really fun. And the video kind of goes through, it doesn't necessarily have to be a historical, like, documented story for that story to have a message. And if the value is giving you something that you didn't have originally, well, then it's a benefit. And you're going to have no crass from me. But there is this funny interplay with the field of reeds or the Red Sea and the marshland that I found pretty funny. And it doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be, doctrine. But it can still be something that you and me and anyone who reads that story can go, oh, I relate to that. You fight through the struggle. You get through this terrible pain, this anguish. You get past the terrible part. And then you get to the promised land, right? So the core message is still key. And the fun part is getting to apply that to your life, to my life. And, of course, there is this unique thing with judgment where, again, on the screen here, I'm just reading the same notes that I just quickly pulled up. But the fun part is how you choose to take the message, how you get to use the story for yourself. And I think sometimes we get lost. We think it has to be so accurate, so perfect, so inerrant in a way that we lose track of the very basic elements of what we're trying to figure out. And some of those for me, in dealing with some of the difficult parts of getting older, is losing people that are close. And in losing those people, you remember a few things. For me, I remember I was sitting there at work, and my dad called, and I'm just going through all the memories that I can remember from the earliest time period. And it's, it's like Grandpa playing the guitar. It's Grandma Marcia knitting, right? Or what's the other one where you do you tie the knots? I forget. And, she's threading those through, making this blanket or this, like, special thing for someone in the family. And, they're both gone. And I guess the key point is I'm looking at the right things. I'm looking at the joy, the happiness, the compassion that I learned from my grandparents. And that's now reflecting into hopefully returning that same compassion, gratitude, love, joy back into the world somehow. And that's just not here. I'm not trying to be like egotistical, right? I understand that probably people aren't even watching right now. But this does feel like a very good cathartic way to express some emotions that may or may not have been pent up for a little too long. So, it feels really good. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Where you have that feeling and you have to, like, you're just harboring it. And it kind of, you know what it feels like? It feels like an obscurus, right? From Harry Potter. That's what I'm looking up. Obscurus. And I'm telling you right now, I'm going to totally mispronounce it. Obscurus. Harry Potter. Boom. Now, an obscurus. I see. I told you. I already warned you. I forewarned you I was going to do it. And I did it. An obscurus is a dangerous, uncontrollable dark force that develops in young witches or wizards, which is the obscurial. So they're forced to repress their magic through trauma or abuse. And it acts as a parasite, an intangible thing that erupts immediately in this destructive force. And, I think in the Fantastic Beasts movies, you get this, why is he so special, right? Ezra Miller, why are you so special? Well, it's because they usually die before they're 10. And, I really don't know. That'd be a cool thing to dive into, is, did JK have, why 10? Is there a set age? Like, is that when, again, completely freeball spitballing here. But is that, because maybe at 10 it becomes solidified, right? At 10 it turns into permanent trauma, or it turns into, like the Dementors, for example. Those are the JK's physical representation of what depression looks like, which I thought was beautiful, because you get something, right? Like, I always appreciate when, if I'm watching, again, I'm a huge geek, so Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or Star Wars or something, if there's something I can pull from it that's more than just like, it's magic, or oh yeah, you got the orcs fighting or whatever, but there's an underlying theme in there. Those types of movies, those types of shows, those types of displays of being human, I think they mean more than we think they mean. Because when I watch those, it means I'm not alone. Or, I'm not isolated. I'm not an island, right? And so I wonder if there's some type of, like, underlying message that JK is trying to say with, this age of 10, right? Maybe at 10 it becomes permanent, and then it takes you over completely. It destroys the person that you are. It's so traumatic that you're like, oh my God, I can't deal with it, right? Maybe that's something small. Maybe something, and I think we forget this too, which brings us back to the original notes I had pulled up. Sometimes we pull from what we know. And maybe I'm not trying to insinuate that JK had something happen at 10. I am saying that we always pull from personal experience. We pull from something that we relate to, that we confide in one another with, that just something, right? Something. I just whacked the crap out of that. My bad. Sorry, guys. But something that we go, yeah, that relates to me. That's very personal to me. because it's a part of the human condition. It's something we all can relate to. It is something that we go, oh, yeah, that's why it resonates. And I'll never forget this. Dude, I'll never forget crying when I'm watching like Harry Potter, Fantastic Beasts to be specific. When I'm watching these, I'm relating to these on a personal level. There's something about the human condition that I'm relating to that translates down to me. And, you know, it reminds me of like the Greco-Roman world, right? They did these plays and they had they were surrounded. And so a cool, interesting thing I never thought of was you could be in different areas of the, not the arena, that's wrong, of the theater, and you could see different perspectives. You could sit on one side and go, oh, I see this main character's perspective. Or you could sit on the opposite side and go, I'm seeing a whole different view of how this thing played out. And I think that's why certain stories really resonate. It's even hard to describe, but it taps into something that is relatable on all levels, despite whatever differences you or me or anybody else has. There's this thing that we all struggle with, that we all have to cope with in certain cases. Mine right now is, I don't know why Shakespeare showed up just now, but I remember it's Ian McClellan. Is that how you say it? I think so. But he's doing Macbeth. And he's discussing time, he's discussing, you know what, we've already hit the obscurus, right? Ian McKellen? Yep. No, I spelled that wrong. I do that very often, by the way. I think, Macbeth's speech. I think it's thereafter. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Yes, this guy right here. This is what you want to watch. He analyzes his scene. He relates to it on a very intimate, personal level. He then translates it to theater for you and me to see. There's something so beautiful about that moment. It's almost like I don't know. I got emotional thinking about it for some reason. But I think it's that even because he's top dog, right? Magneto himself is giving you an example of what it is just to be a human being. And I think that we sometimes take art for granted. We take, TV shows, we take movies, we take all these things just on face value. And I'm like, listen, there might be something deeper in this message. Inside this, creative bubble of art. There might be something there for you, something there for me. And the more that I've kind of looked into some of these, the more that I've kind of grown as a person, the more I've realized, yeah, I can really tap into that and feel what it means to be human. And, you can, for example, the Lord of the Rings, spoiler alert, I apologize, very important. Most of the Germanic religious practices, I get maybe Indo-European into Germanic practices, kind of it reminds me of Beowulf almost, where his inspiration, JR, he pulls it from Germanic tradition. And just to let you know that I'm not just like spitting stuff out my J.R. Tolkien, Germanic, I don't know, connections? Oh, that's 3 N's. Whoops. I'll explain. Also, completely missed those keys. I'm a human being, right? I'm a human being. Go ahead and read that there. So, and this is a key word too, philologist, right? Someone who studies the language, and it doesn't mean that the Lord of the Rings loses any value, right? It's a great book, all three of them. It's a great series, The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings. The whole thing flows beautifully. It doesn't mean because he borrowed Germanic language and customs and myths and all these things that it makes it less valuable, right? It's still epic. Oh, look at that. Heavily borrowing from epics like Beowulf. Listen, I'm not going to toot my own horn. I'm not going to toot it. But I will just give it a little bit. Because a lot of this is, I remember reading in my history class, we read about Beowulf. And, there were, dwarf names, right? Like Gandalf, of course. Elf with a wand and a staff. I remember all these. It's all in Old Norse. And I'm sitting there thinking, going, does that take away from the story? Does this ruin Lord of the Rings? Does this ruin Middle-earth? Does this... No. It adds it because it gives it another one of these human elements, right? Something I can relate to, or at least potentially learn about. And I think the same goes for my original notes that we were going to talk about, is like there was a very big development, at least in the New Testament, where you get this compounding effect, this building of ideas, and there's an entire world of philosophy that we just kind of ignore. And one, I think it's unfair that we ignore that, because then we don't understand proper historical context of the original piece that we're reading because of something that we hold close to be belief or doctrine. So we actually miss on the people who wrote the book. And, I really want to do a follow-up. One of those follow-ups is going to be these, the Logos, the Sophia, Platonic dualism is a big one for me here, right? The separation of the body and the soul, right? It's a Platonic disconnect where the soul is almost too good to be in the body, but it somehow gets trapped into this vessel, and now we have to not disconnect, but learn eventually to connect back to the good, the ultimate good. And you know what? Let's go ahead and research some, huh? Huzzah! Let's see what it says when I type that in. Platonic dualism is the philosophical concept developed by Plato that reality is divided into two distinct realms. The temporary, which is this changing physical world, perceived through our senses, right? We experience the world based on these senses, but it doesn't mean that's the complete picture. The eternal, unchanging, perfect realm of forms, which I think is interesting when it says, I've known this too, I'm trying to that's the wrong word, I'm trying to navigate, right, this idea of forms being ideas. Because there's a lot of these unique concepts that go, are ideas something that aren't from us? Are we receiving ideas? Do we come up with anything? Is it just a perception of these forms and we just interpret them into X, Y, Z? And something that's important here too is that it's only understood through reason. And it gives me a pretty strong Gnostic vibe, right? Through knowledge, you'll be able to understand these frameworks. in order to understand what cannot be seen, you have to make sense of what is now. Interesting. So in this physical body, right, we may be, I'm pretty sure we are, limited to the senses that we have in front of us, right? These inputs then give an output, and then boom, we think it's the real deal. I love this Platonic dualism for that reason, because it gives this clear dividing line between the seen and unseen. And I really do. I kind of want, you know what? We're already here. Let's walk through it. The physical becomes this here, the world of senses, right? And I think we all can relate to this constant flux, this imperfect, perishable world that might just be the shadow. And it always reminds me of the cave, right? Plato's cave. It always shows up. When I look up dualism, when I look up all of these forms, the separation from the physical and the spiritual, I always get back to that cave where he's doing the light from the fire, and he holds up the shadow, and it hits on the wall, and you're like, oh. You're like, do you really want to be the person that is just looking at the shadow? Right? It's just another realm to think outside of what you think you know. And I mean, I feel strongly that feels about right. I don't know why. I just feel that there is a disconnect between the potential of me, the spiritual part of me, of you, and this material body. Like, there's just, and again, I can't explain if that's because, we're raised in some Western tradition, or maybe there's something that we just haven't learned yet. But it's just something that I think about, and I read him, and I study the Socratic dialogues, and I try to side note, but whenever I read a book, I have a highlighter and a pen. I highlight, I put an N and a number, and then if it's really important, I'll use the pen to make sure that's definite, so I go back to it. And so if you want to borrow my books, I wouldn't. They are all used. They're all highlighted, they're all used. There's nothing, they're not new, let's say that. Like, I can't return them to the college store. They're going to go, this has been highlighted. They're like, this is like $1. And you were like, but I paid $120 for the book. You're like, yeah, but you highlighted the crap out of it. And you're like, I thought isn't this college? Right? Like, that's, I have a different way of understanding these books, but I like to do the highlighter, the pen. I like to then take those notes, I review the chapter, I write them down, and then I review them later. So maybe it spoke to me both in the moment, I remember it, and then I write it down. When I write it down, I then go, oh, do I have some free time now, maybe I can, write something up, right? So I have just notebooks and notebooks of stuff that's just from me, this spiritual part of me, writing into my own personal text. Not for vanity, not for ego, not for, it's just to grow as a person. And it didn't become super clear until, later in my life, where I feel like that's the proper way to learn something new, right? This might be a little, hey, TMI, but I always do it when I go in. So I come home from work and I go, this is a dedicated 45 minutes before I get way too hot. I'm going to read and do this in the bathtub. When I get out, I dry off, do my thing, have dinner with my family, and then I write down these notes. When I write down those notes, then I go, did I pull something from it? Did I learn something new? Is this worth continuing to read? Because I really do hate this idea that, oh, you grabbed, a Socratic dialogue. Well, you have to read it completely. You're like, not if it's not resonating with me. Right? Maybe I'm not ready for it. Maybe I'm not prepared to hear the message. Maybe I'm missing something, right? There's all these things that kind of go into it. But again, that might just be me. Excuse me. And I don't know. I feel that maybe I do, even if I have no idea if anybody's here. I'm hoping this is working and going through whatever's happening. This feels good to do, right? Not because I can pull something from it later, not that I can, do this or do that or blah blah blah. It's going through some of these ideas. It makes me feel better about, about losing someone close to me, and focusing on those moments that, and we all have this too, right? We all have, regret, or we all have things that we didn't do or should have done. And I'll try to pull it up here. I know we have the dualism, but this, I really hope it plays. Because Andrew Garfield, I only know him because of Spider-Man, to be honest. The Amazing Spider-Man. Great film. Great movie. But he has a quote that, because I don't know if it'll pick up this monitor. I really don't. Yeah, right here. Andrew Garfield described grief as all the unexpressed love that I didn't get to tell her. Ooh, man. Power in that statement. And again, that was his mom. Right, this is, you know what? Screw it. I'm not doing this for anybody else. This is just for me at this moment. I don't care if it's, this is just my grandmother, and I loved her dearly. I have no idea what it would be like to lose my mom. How old is Andrew Garfield? 42. It says he's 42 years old. Damn, that's still young. Also, Jesus Christ. He was 29? He was 29 playing a 17-year-old? Okay. Listen, I'll tell you right now. Tom Holland, this makes more sense. 21 playing 15. I believe that. I would never have guessed he was 29 in that movie. Holy crap. And that was forever ago, man. But anyway, I just think I keep going back to that, right? It's unexpressed love that means it means the most, right? I regret the time I didn't go down to see her that one time, or I could have stopped by when I went to go, we ran by quick to see my uncle, or any of those little teeny tiny things. It brings those up. And I guess I can say I'm blessed to experience that, because it means that she loved me so much. She loved others so much. you know, my on my dad's side, my grandfather's the one who taught me how to, you know, pick up a guitar, or to learn music in the first place, you know, because to be honest, I was a kid, and I'm like, it's too hard. And then I'll never forget the both of them sitting in their chairs. They had these lounge chairs, or lazy boys, I guess, if you will. And Grandpa just picks up his guitar, starts going to town, and I'm like, you can make that sound with this? It like never occurred to me. Again, I was like 10, 11, and it just opened a new door just by doing one simple thing. And God, you know, not trying to dog anybody, dog any religious practice, or say anything negative about, you know, XYZ. But it's a lot more difficult when I don't have something at least religious based to fall back on in such a time. You know, I'm trying to navigate the loss, and it did not work, by the way. It did not work. I got to work, and then I was like, you know, I don't think I can do anything. And it wasn't like, how do I put that? It wasn't like, oh, you laziness. No. It just didn't make sense. Like, I couldn't operate in modern day, I suppose. And it was just new. Like, I've just never had to navigate that. But anyway, sorry, I kind of went sideways on that guy. Anyway, so, you know what, let's learn something together. So, we already discussed the body and soul separation, right? The body consisted a part of the physical world, right? It's mortal, it's subject to decay, and I think this is interesting too. Very Gnostic, right here. Acts as a prison for the soul. That's new, right? It acts as a prison for the soul. Now the soul, which is immortal, and that comes from Plato, means it does not live in the physical material world. So, and I do like this shadow effect that I get from studying even Greek philosophy and then applying it to modern day, where even in physics they were like, well, we might be a shadow of a world higher above, kind of cast down, and we experience this down here, but the reality is up here. So we are living in this shadow. You know what? Let's go that. We'll finish this off, actually. So, the soul in the Platonic dualism is that the realm of forms is where we belong. That's where the soul belongs. So, the soul that we have possesses knowledge of the one, the good, the place that we belong, right? Which I think is very relevant in any Western religious practice. And, oh, that's good. True knowledge is achieved by the soul using reason. See, very Gnostic. I remember I grabbed Clement of Alexandria, because he said Plato was the idea was that Plato was a pre-Christian. Oh, Plato's pre-Christian. It just wasn't around yet. And I go, if you're asking me what this is, very Gnostic. It's a very Gnostic idea, right? You use reason. I assume it's some type of divine wisdom or divine reason to remember the forms that you're from, right? The place where the soul is reflecting down, just like the cave. Oh my God, that's where we belong. And I think that's very relatable to, well, many of us. But and same thing here, death as a release. Ooh, very good. You see, very Gnostic. If you had to ask me, it seems like this is more Gnostic than it is pre-Christian. So, again, I will admit, I'm reading Clement. It's beautiful, it's poetic, it's very oriented in a way that's like, I never thought of it that way. But the more I learn about the Greco-Roman world, the more that I pull from, in this case, Platonic dualism, I'm getting a very common thread. And the common thread is, okay, the soul and the body, clearly separate. Physics, I'm going to go to something that's, maybe we're just a higher dimensional reality that's projected down, and that's where we live. But we just exist here for the moment. We don't belong here. Anyway, so the whole idea is that the goal of this philosopher is to focus on the soul and the intellectual pursuits. Sounds Gnostic to me, right? Knowledge, gnosis, pretty key. And the aim is to understand the perfect forms rather than being distracted by the material, this imperfect, sensory-oriented material world, right? Instead of being distracted, you want to achieve a knowledge that is higher to essentially where you, as this in the soul, resides. And I think I don't know why that's so far-fetched. I think that's pretty realistic, right? I feel like we're all searching for the place, to understand the place, right? I did a video about where the soul goes after it's gone, right? There's different ideas. And I think it's apologies. I know we started with ancient Egypt to Exodus to then Old Testament to then getting into the New Testament, and then from there going into the Platonic dialogues. And something interesting here is, I think if we look at it the right way, I think Plato is shaking the script, or rewriting it, because something I didn't know is that Hades, because to be honest, I always imagine Hercules. Right? I know it's a Disney movie, but like whenever it's Hercules, it's like, oh, that's a really terrible place to be, right? The guy with the flaming head, and you have the weird two, one's plumpy and one's skinny, and they do stuff to us, right? I don't know why that's all I remember, but Hades was a place where the soul, this thing that wasn't us but was us, that lives in a higher dimensional form, right? That's where it was to travel. And it's always described as like, like gray, like boring, and like not somewhere that you technically want to go, but like you have to go. And so if that's the idea, and then they, Socrates and Plato and the philosophers at the time start to build, and they build on this idea, it doesn't seem very nice. Death doesn't seem very nice. And I think, at least in the West, we're used to death being okay. Right? Oh, we're going to go this way and do this and do that. It's very joyful. If the basis of how you study this is on the idea of Hades, right? This somber underworld, right? Now, if you're a hero, it reminds me of the Matt Damon movie, Elysium. but most lived this shadowy existence. So you're like a shell of yourself, right? Now, you have to cross this river Styx right here. But this is key too. I read the Iliad in my history class, and I was like, whoa, this is a very different vibe. But you needed a proper burial because that was vital to allow your soul to cross this river Styx. And so it was, it does give this vibe of a journey, right? You're still journeying somewhere, but the journey is into this very bleak, gray, boring, shell of yourself type of world. If I'm, right now, if that's my idea, like this makes no sense. But if I was to go to a, Platonic Greek, Hades is the only way type of church, I would also be very disappointed in the outcome. I would try to find a way to philosophically take myself away from this somber afterlife and go into something more joyful, like heaven, or a connection to the forms, the one. And it feels like we're bouncing around, and I really hope we're not. I kind of just wanted to free flow, but whether it's JK borrowing from sources, whether it's The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, JR, he's pulling from Germanic tradition. Like, I understand their method. I understand what they're trying to do. It's taking this negative idea and trying to see if maybe intellectually we can build upon the idea and make something better than what we currently have. And it's reflective, to me, of the New Testament. And so, we, by the way, there's a video on this, but we only got to my section 0, which is the intro section about the influences, right? All we got to was Platonic dualism. Now, I did want to go through more, but one of the key things in bringing these authors up and bringing people that, connect with us, they resonate, they have a message that might relate to us, right? It's the same way with the Greco-Roman world for the New Testament, right? These concepts helped early Christians frame Jesus as this divine, so the Logos and Sophia. So, So, in this frame, another one, he becomes this physical representation of both put together. And in both of them being put together, right, there's something that I wanted to make sure I did, which, if I'm trying to understand anything relating to the New Testament, or let's say any New Testament scholarship, I kind of want to know the background details, right? I want to know, the who, what, when, where, why. And I'm not trying to discredit anybody from doing so, or discredit, someone's belief system. That's not the goal. The goal is to understand the historicity of the time period. And in full honesty, if your idea of, where am I going to go after I die, it's pretty bad. Oh, it's boring. It's very somber, right? Hades, it's not really that fun, right? I would make a new one myself, right? I feel like, I don't know if that's entitlement. I don't know if that is, I don't know what to call it, to be honest. But even if I pull these heavy Stoic and Platonic, frameworks, right? If I use Platonic dualism to try to explain what's happening, it doesn't mean that, like, I'm trying to, in my ego seek out something that is just nonsense. I'm trying to pull what I feel is right. And I do feel that is right. I have good buddies who do this run around with me. Thankfully. And in doing that, we get to this spot. And the spot is like, it's almost as if we're asking each other, is that what you want for your belief? Is that what you want to think about? Is that what you want to contemplate on or focus on? If it's this Hades idea, then no. Because it's almost like, not to knock atheists or anybody else, but, or to be nihilistic or any of those things. It's this concept, right? What do you want to focus on? How do you want to aim your life? How do you want to focus on the potential that your life can have? Do you want to focus on the negative? Do you want to focus on the boring, the somber? Or maybe do you want to focus on, enlightenment? Light itself. You are a piece of this divinity, this form, and you're going to go back there, right? Those are two very different ideas that also resonate on the same wave. It's just depending on how you look at it. And I think it's just how you frame it, right? I would do the exact same thing. And I do not have something that I hope I convey by doing, some of these and talking more on episodes is like, I'm not trying to convey something of, a scholar or, or someone. And I'm not saying that like, oh, scholars are terrible. I'm saying it like, I'm not trying to say I know everything. It's very Socratic, if you think about it. I read this the other day, even if it's a play on, playing dumb, right? If Socrates is playing dumb, but he knows the answer, but he's just playing dumb to check you, right? I don't think he would have the ego involved in doing so. I think it's more allowing yourself to understand yourself. So as you go through these questions, and I do this in my regular life, I don't know if it's beneficial to my friends or anybody else, but I will fire back the question in a way, so if they give me an answer, right? Oh, I believe this, and I go, why do you believe that? Right? They have an answer, boom, right back to me, and I go, where did you hear that? Is that in there? Right? You're like firing these questions back and forth. And this Socratic method is not to like trick you into thinking I'm above you or my friend or someone else. I'm trying to help understand myself while asking you those questions. And in return, by understanding me, I understand you. You understand me. Like, I feel like the bond gets tighter. We become closer friends, family members, right? These are all things that and I don't understand where this comes from, but I always, before I start this little series of questions, I tell them straight up, I'm not doing this for me, right? I'm not trying to like negate your belief system. I'm not trying to ruin the thing that you hold so close. I just want to know it deeper, just like I want to know you deeper. It's a very personal connection. And in that personal connection, you get the opportunity to understand another soul that, according to Plato, may or may not be trapped inside this physical body for the meantime. And I think that even I say this all the time, but it's like, even if it's a placebo effect, like maybe it doesn't work, or maybe it's just like you're psyching yourself out in this case. I feel like that's still a good practice to have. And in having that practice, I go, I do feel like I know, my friend better. I feel like, because now instead of calling, I'm getting married this year, so instead of calling them brothers, I call them, or instead of calling them friends, I call them brothers. Apologies. And I feel like I can honestly say that, right? Like I've learned enough from you. We've spent enough time. We've gone into the depths of hours and hours of conversation to understand one another on a very intimate level. And then I call it soul conversation. I don't know if that's scholarship. But that's how it feels. It's like I'm trying to understand you on a level that no one else has, right? To the point where instead of being a friend, you're a brother now. And, there's a lot of things that have changed in my life where people that used to be, quote unquote, just a friend, by doing this method, I go, yeah, I feel like I know you. Like, I feel like I really understand who you are as a person. I understand the depths of the negative and the positive. Like, so when I guess maybe me saying it's a soul talk or a soul connection or a soul this, I'm just trying to use language to deepen the message. Because it feels that deep. And listen, if this is the shadow or this is the shade of what's happening above, moments like this where I can kind of release some of this to you guys, to me, like it's cathartic, but also it's eye-opening, because like I'm feeling a lot of very positive emotions from a negative outcome. And I think that's how you take the afterlife. I think it's how you take, the belief system that you have. I feel like any of those things play into one another where you have the choice to pick. You can choose to feel how you want to feel. You can... we already went through it with the Platonic, dualism, but yeah, I just feel very... I don't want to make it my default mode, but like I feel very blessed and very gracious, and like I have everything I've ever wanted my entire life, right? And that's not a braggy type of thing. I didn't, honestly, at a certain point in my life, I didn't expect to have it, and I do, and now I get to, I guess maybe framing my life and going, God, I'll never have it. And then getting it, I'm like, wow, I'm really blessed to have it. And I guess it's the same with time with my grandma. Right? It's gone. I don't have any more. I'll miss her. But at the same time, I value the time I had. And, I'll think about it. I'll remember it. And I'm pretty sure I still have it. But right here, remember, grief is just all the unexpressed love that I didn't get to tell her. And I do feel that, And it's probably natural. It's probably part of the process. It's probably something that, just goes without saying anything, but yeah. It's tough. But I think holy crap, has it been 64 minutes? Oh, I've been going for a while. I didn't even check anything down below. I've got my notes up here. I don't even know what this goes after this. But anyway, thank you. Even if it's just me and the camera, if there's anybody that was watching, I appreciate it. It helped me a lot, actually. I feel better. And I wasn't just trying to use like YouTube Live as a platform. It was just a first stream test, but it wasn't that difficult after I understood all the stuff. Either way, I'm just ranting now, even though it's been 65 minutes. But thank you for being here. Anyway, I'll post on Monday, and I'll see y'all later. Thank you.